Alright. Good late night, everyone. I forgot that I was gonna do Umineko Thursdays as well. And I'm waiting on laundry to finish before I go to bed. So let's read like 45 minutes. 30 to 45 minutes, because I am quite sleepy. But I do still want to read a little bit of pre-bed Umineko. Let me open this. Alright, let's get right into it. Hello. I think we were at all of the non-parents are just kind of hanging out in the hotel room, or not hotel, but guest room, you know. The four of us cousins were enjoying our stories, just shooting the breeze. Anyway, there were both girls and guys here. Plus, we had people over a wide spread of ages, adult, high school, and elementary school. Even if we just talked about our own lives, the other three kept listening attentively. I think I'm finally getting used to all this. Jessica and Maria have grown more than I could have imagined in the past 6 years. To be honest, I was feeling a bit uncomfortable, but talking like this, I guess that on the inside, nothing's really changed since back then. I agree. You haven't changed a bit, even after 6 years. Even though your body's gotten gigantic, you're still a kid inside.
I'm a kid too. I'm a kid too.
Well, even you aren't going to be a kid forever, are you, Maria? I mean, you're going to transform from a kid into a cute young lady, aren't you? Come on, man. Battler, you need to die now. You're saying this to a 9-year-old. No, you can't make that kind of promise. That's bad, bad, bad. We gotta stab Battler with, some knives. Stop trying to change the subject by making it sound pretty. Maria, that promise never happened. Never.
The promise is cancelled?
As I thought, without Battler and our little quartet, this group of cousins just didn't feel complete. These 6 years have been kinda lonely. That's true. We didn't really goof off like this. Still, we did have some pretty constructive conversations, right? Stuff about preparing for our future, exam taking, finding jobs. Oh, I'm so sorry. Now that I'm here, we just talk about stupid stuff and mess around.
But I'm having more fun this year.
That's true. I agree, this year's the most fun yet. Maria's sincere words probably spoke for everyone present. George stroked Maria's head and she giggled like a happy kitten. Aww. Pardon me, your meal is ready. A timid knocking sound, and the equally timid voice of a young woman came through the door. Okay, maybe that's Shannon. I was thinking it was, what was his name, Goto. Jessica answered brightly. Shannon, come in. You remember Battler, right? Jessica stood up from the bed and opened the door. There stood a servant girl who must have been about our age.
It's been quite some time since we last met, Battler. It's nice to see you after 6 years. It's me, Shannon.
Trembling a little as she noticed me, she bowed deeply. Ah, Jessica had me surprised, but look at you, Shannon. You've turned into a total beauty too, haven't you?
You are too kind.
Still, the food on this island must be really nutritional, huh? What are you eating? Battler, keep your damn hands to yourself. Which is why I was glad that Jessica chose that time to drive her elbow into the back of my head. Ow! Thank you so much, Jessica. Why the hell are you thanking me? Seriously, my bad, Shannon. Dude. Battler, I want to like you.
But you are an important guest, Battler. I couldn't do such a thing, because we are, furniture.
I guess I was actually the person sacrifice yourself to see her once. Shannon, I girl like this needs some urgent protection. It's to think such devoted girls still existed in this era. It's enough to make a man dizzy, but no. Not me, You're saying this about yourself, man. This guy can't end until you deliver the punchline, so slap me, please, hit me.
I cannot fulfill your request because I'm furniture, but if it were an order, I'd obey you, because that is my duty.
Then I'll make it an order. The next time Battler tries to touch your breast, counterattack with a slap. Got it?
Yes, as you wish. From now on, that's what I'll do. Please understand, Battler.
Shannon announced this while bowing elegantly to me. Her expression was radiant. I gave her a thumbs up to show her I was fine with that. 6 years ago, you might have been mistaken for a servant's daughter who lent a hand at your parents' work, but now you're a full-fledged adult servant. How long have you been working here?
Well, I've had the pleasure of serving this household for about 10 years.
She's Shannon. The kanji for her name I read is Shannon. Now here's another name that's far from typical for a Japanese person. Back in the day, I was a kid myself, so I accepted her name without paying it too much attention. Thinking about it now, though, her name's pretty unusual, even though she's not a member of the Yoshiromiya family. Maybe it's like a servant's professional name or something. If so, that might explain why her name's so similar to Kanon, that kid I met earlier in the Rose Garden. She's a long-term servant who served here since she was 6 years old. I thought the kid that started working at 13 was not good. Our appearance had changed so much that I couldn't match her to the person of my memories, but we both knew each other 6 years ago. That shy part of her had always been there, but she did seem to have developed the allure you'd expect of a girl her age. Especially in her breasts, yes. That kid we met earlier, Kanon, is her little brother.
He's not exactly my little brother. Still, he loves me like a big sister. He didn't cause you any trouble, did he?
He's the same as always. If only he were just a bit more sociable.
I apologize if he's caused you any trouble.
Nah, he didn't cause any trouble at all. As a fellow man, I understand how moody you can get at that age. It's no surprise he's unsociable.
I get called that all the time, too. I get called unsociable, just like Kanon. You aren't unsociable at all, Maria. Wanted to be like him.
She thinks he's cool. It's cute. You said the meal was ready, right?
Ah, yes. I'm sorry. Your meal has been fully prepared, so please allow me to guide you all to the mansion.
Shannon bowed again formally and returned to her duty mode. We realized that if we made her stick around for any more light conversation, it would actually make it harder for her to do her job. We got up off our butts to avoid interfering with her work any further. So, shall we go to the mansion? Everyone's probably hungry, right?
Yeah.
I'm really looking forward to Goda-san's food. That guy was apparently a chef at this famous hotel, so he's super good at cooking. Ooh, I can't wait. Let's go, Maria. We're gonna stuff ourselves like pigs.
Stuff ourselves like pigs.
No, you can't take everything Battler says seriously, okay? Because he's always just joking around. Okay, let's go. Under Shannon's guidance, we headed towards the mansion. Met once again by the magnificent rose garden, we continued onward, as the intimidating mansion of the Ushiromiya head family came into view. It had apparently been built shortly after the war, so you can feel the dignity of almost a half-century hanging about it. The building was gorgeous on the surface, but old as it was, equipment such as its AC and heating were apparently quite frail. According to Jessica, midwinter was especially tough, what with all the drafts. Haven't these people ever heard of a kotatsu? As we entered the entrance hall, an aged servant greeted us. Now him I remembered. Genji, who had been working here longer than anyone, filled the role of head servant. Battler, it has been quite some time since last we met. As our eyes met, he greeted me with a calm, composed voice. His bow wasn't as graceful or refined as Goda's, but despite its simplicity, it communicated his feelings very well. Genji, it really has been a while. You look well. Thank you. I have been quite well. And, Battler, you've become a splendid young man. You're beginning to resemble the master in his youth. I look like grandfather? I guess that means grandfather was pretty popular with the ladies when he was young. From here on, I shall take Shannon's place and accompany you. Please, come this way. Shannon bowed deeply and watched us leave. After that, we headed towards the dining room under Genji's guidance. Genji, just like Kumasawa, stood in stark contrast to us young people who had grown beyond recognition over the last 6 years. His appearance was exactly the same as in my memories from 6 years ago. It was as though time had stopped since the last time we met. Genji was an extremely quiet and diligent person. He was basically grandfather's close aide or caregiver, and you might even call him grandfather's companion of many years. What do I mean? In fact, it seems he was by grandfather's side even more often than my late grandmother was. According to Jessica, grandfather trusted him more than any of his blood relatives. But I wonder how long he served. I never got the details, but I heard something about him being here since the very beginning, when this mansion was first constructed. Which would mean that he's dedicated half his life to serving here. It's easy to see why he's so trusted. As we passed through a massive hall that extended up into the second story of the mansion with no separating floor, I spotted something that hadn't existed in my memory of 6 years ago. Oh shit, this is the painting. Yes. Hey. It was an awfully big portrait hanging right in front of the stairs that rose to the second floor. Without thinking, I stopped walking, captivated by it. Since I'd stopped so fast, Maria, who was following behind me, ran into my back. Sorry. Hey, Jessica, has that picture always been there? I pointed at the big, prominently displayed portrait in the hall. Everyone else stopped too. Oh, right. When you last came here, that hadn't been hung yet, had it? When was it again? Well, if my memory doesn't fail me, it was put on display sometime around the year before last. You are correct, sir. In April of the year before the last, the master put it on display there, having previously ordered a painter to create it. grandfather did that? So he paid to have it painted just for him, huh? The portrait suited this Western mansion, and that woman in the elegant dress gave off a sense of refinement. I couldn't have guessed her age, but her sharp eyes and the strong will she seemed to possess made her look youthful. She seemed somehow different from the composed middle-aged woman you often see in famous pictures. If she'd had normal black hair, I might have assumed it was a portrait of my long-deceased grandmother in her prime. However, she had beautiful blonde hair and didn't look Japanese at all. So, just who is this lady? Maria answered that simple question enthusiastically, as though proud she knew the answer.
I know. She's Beatrice.
I forgot to look up the pronunciation again. My bad. I'll do it next time. Okay, Beatrice? Hold on, I'm gonna look it up right now. I might as well. How to pronounce Beatrice Umineko. Beatrice. 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 Okay, so I'm gonna say the... Beatrice. Oh, jeez. I don't know. Beatrice. Shit. Is there a video of someone pronouncing it out loud? How to pronounce Beatrice Italian. How does this say?
Okay, so turns out Act 1 on Friday.
Okay, take this ad off my video.
Julian's pronunciation guide with words and from how to pronounce this name in Italian. If you want to learn more Italian names, stay tuned. Now, Beatrice is probably common pronunciation in English. Now, in Italian, it's pronounced Beatrice.
Beatrice. Beatrice. Beatrice. Beatrice.
Beatrice. How to pronounce?
Beatrice. Okay, Beatrice. 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 I'll try my best. What? Beatrice. She's a witch. Didn't you ever hear stories about her long ago? A witch? You mean the witch of this island? I think I already said this, but Rokenjima is a small island only 10 kilometers in circumference. However, that's actually pretty massive considering that's the only Ushiromiya family lives here. So only the harbor and the area around the mansion were set up to be lived in. Beyond that, the island remained as untouched as when it was uninhabited. The vast and empty forest had absolutely no lights, phones, or people passing through. To understand how dangerous that is, you need to forget your common sense as a city dweller. After all, if you happen to fall down a hole in the depths of the forest and sprain your ankle, no one would come save you, no matter how much you cried or screamed. Then, once the sun went down, the forest would be wrapped in complete darkness, since there were no streetlights. And since there were no signs, it'd be easy to get lost and confused, losing your sense of direction inside that dark forest. Nowadays, most people see a forest as a peaceful place, but to the people of bygone eras, before the light of civilization drove out the night, Forests were as geographically separated from civilization as the sea. They were oceans above the ground. Fishermen who go out into the ocean are putting their lives at risk despite their technical knowledge. In the same way, hunters who go out to the forest are in danger despite having specialized knowledge of their own. If children were to go play in such a dangerous forest, something terrible might happen. Someone's parents must have thought so. Maybe grandmother first said it, or maybe it was grandfather himself. Or perhaps the story has been passed down on this island since ancient times. There's a terrible witch in the forest, so you must not go in. At some point, this ghost story of Rokenjima was born. This is the legend of Rokenjima's witch. That's why, when we talk about a witch on this island, we're referring to the master of that vast and savage forest. Come to think of it, when I stayed at this mansion as a little kid, during those eerie nights when the wind and rain pounded on the windows, I remember being terrified by a story of the forest witch, who roamed around searching for human sacrifices. So, Beatrice, huh? When Brother mentioned it, I searched my memory and was sure I recalled hearing a name like that when I was little. I see. Still, I totally forgot that the witch in that legend had an elegant name like Beatrice. So, did Grandfather go out of his way to have a portrait made just because we grandchildren didn't believe the story? She's the witch from Grandfather's delusions. Ever since he had this picture hanged, he's been having a harder and harder time telling the difference between truth and fantasy. To us, she's just a witch that exists in Grandfather's mind. But to him, she's a being that exists on this island. Exists. He says he had that painting made because the rest of us would be incapable of understanding otherwise. This whole thing's creepy as hell. Milady, this portrait is precious to the master. I beg of you, do not say such things in front of him. I know. Even if you didn't tell me, I'd never do something like that. Jessica glanced at the portrait with an irritated gaze before turning away. Let's go. We're making everyone wait in the dining room.
I'm hungry.
Only a small portion of this island was controlled by the Ushiromiya family. All of the lawless remainder was the domain of the witch Beatrice. You might even call her the true ruler of Rokenjima. I felt a faint revival of that unsettling sense of misfortune, which I'd felt when I learned of the tutelary god's shrine being struck by lightning. And I remembered that Kumasawa tried to tell an ominous story about Rokenjima before Jessica stopped her. I don't know what she was planning to tell us about this island, but I do know one thing. It isn't the Ushiromiya family that rules Rokenjima. It's the witch Beatrice. That's right. After all, this is the witch's island.
Battler, you're slow.
When I looked around, everyone was already heading towards the dining room. I hurriedly chased after them. We walked up to the huge double doors that led to the dining room. Genji knocked. I have brought the children. Please pardon the intrusion. The doors were opened and we were invited inside. That loud ass sound effect. The dining room, which looked exactly like you'd imagine a rich person's dining room to be, had a super long table that was obviously positioned with no purpose other than to make the guests conscious of their rank. Our parents were already sitting in accordance with that ordering. You're late, brats. Hurry up and take a seat. The old bastard pressed us to sit. The only gaps in that group of people were the spots where we were supposed to sit, which only made us feel our tardiness all the more. The seat at the head of the table, called the Inspit's chair, was for the most highly ranked, reserved for Grandfather. It was still empty. He probably wanted to show up last for dramatic effect. From the perspective of someone facing the Inspit's chair head-on, the seating order went from left to right, with the lower-ranking seats progressing in rows of 2 further away from it. So the left-hand side of the first row, closest to the Inspit's chair, was where Uncle Kraus should have sat, since he was second highest in rank. It looked like he hadn't arrived yet, so that seat was empty. Across from his chair, on the right side of the first row, sat the eldest daughter of the family, Aunt Ava, who was third highest in rank. The left-hand side of the second row was for the fourth highest in rank. There sat my damn dad, Rudolph, the third of the siblings. Across from him, on the right side of the second row, sat Aunt Rosa, the youngest sibling. At this point, you might expect their husbands and wives to come next. But nope, the left-hand seat in the third row, ranked number 6, belonged to Jessica. Opposite her was George. I sat next to Jessica, and Maria sat across from me. Then, finally, next to me on the left-hand side of the 5th row, sat Aunt Natsu, the 10th highest in rank. Opposite her was Uncle Hideyoshi. Next to Aunt Natsu, in the 6th row and final seat on the left-hand side, sat Kairi. The seat opposite to Kairi was empty, even though silverware had been set there and everything. According to this ranking system, that spot was where Aunt Rosa's husband should be sitting. Even though he wasn't supposed to be coming, his place was made up. Normally, ranking systems of this sort give spouses equal positions as their partners, but the Ushiromiya family system was unique. Maybe it's a remnant of male chauvinism. If you start with the assumption that a woman's womb is just something to be borrowed, then the children of direct descent would come first, directly followed by the grandchildren. Dr. Pepper saved me. In other words, spouses have no blood ties and are therefore placed at the end of the line. It's terrible, but by this system, my grandmother would be ranked even lower than me if she were still alive. In their youth, they obey their father. After they get married, their husband. After aging, their children. There's the old saying, women have no home in any realm. Long ago, when I was still incapable of figuring all this out, I thought it was so great that we could all chat in our little groups, adult siblings with adult siblings and cousins with cousins. However, now that I can re-examine the seating order after growing up a bit, it stirs up some very complicated feelings in me. Battler can recognize the misogyny of this, but does all that shit from earlier. Ryukishio 7, you are an interesting man. Aunt Natsu, who was married to the eldest son and was the de facto number 2 in managing this family, sat to my right, which meant that she was 2 steps lower than me in the ranking order. It was hard to imagine what might be going on inside her heart. That's why I made a small apologetic gesture towards her before sitting down. How nice to see you, Battler. You've grown quite tall, haven't you? Oh, yep. 6 long years of eating well, sampling various cuisines, and deriving sustenance from Mother Earth's bountiful gifts. Hard work, but I pulled through. Growing just like a boy, I see. How tall are you now? I guess about 180 centimeters, but on Natsu, that's where you're supposed to say, heck, sounds like all you did was eat. Let me look up my American, translator. 180 cm in feet. 5'10". Okay. That seems about right. Huh? Oh, I'm sorry. After a short pause, she did laugh with me, but it seemed she couldn't quite figure out what she was supposed to be laughing at. This woman is Aunt Natsu. She's the wife of the eldest son of the family, meaning she's my father's older brother's wife. Is it simpler if I just call her Jessica's mother? It feels bad to say it like this, but while I didn't exactly dislike her, I didn't particularly like her either. She hardly ever spoke with us kids, and all my memories of her involve her talking to the adults about complicated things with a scary look on her face. In fact, since we hardly ever exchanged words, I spent a long time trying to figure out how I should approach her. Though my efforts seemed to have ended in failure. The silverware sat neatly on the table, but the meal itself hadn't been brought in yet. As a general rule, you couldn't start a meal until the person sitting at the head of the table arrived. So as long as grandfather didn't come, lunch would be put on hold indefinitely. Not even the appetizers would arrive. Simply put, the silence in this room was caused by our parents enduring their hunger while they waited for grandfather to arrive. However, the grandfather from my memories would always show up on time to meals like this. He was the kind of person who would never be so late that it kept everyone waiting, especially after the entire group had arrived. Grandfather's pretty late. As far as I can remember, he was always strict about time. Well, that might have been true 6 years ago, but hasn't been that way lately. In fact, he's off in his own little world so often that he doesn't even show up at family meals. Still, I figured he'd at least come down today. Then again, I feel a lot more relaxed and happy without him. Jessica. When her mother scolded her, Jessica stuck her tongue out and looked away. No way around it. Might as well wait until our host arrives. When I glanced at the clock, I saw that it was almost 12:20. As I say, she was basically dying in the prologue. Oh well. Ushiramiya Kinzo, the aged family head of the Ushiramiya head family. This man could be seen in his study. The clock had already passed noon, but he didn't even attempt to rise from his seat. With his spectacles on, he built up a growing pile of books with elaborate bindings, which he then read intently. You couldn't really say that he was having too much fun to stop. Rather, he filled the room with a sense of impatience, or perhaps a sense of impending danger, as though every second wasted was a tragedy. In this sealed room, a dense dust danced through the air, which was thick with the stench of chemicals that exuded a mix of suspicious odors. Those odors were somehow sweet and heavy. If anyone with a normal nose came in here, the first thing they'd do would be to open a window and ventilate this room. The knocking against the study door had been going on for a while. A voice calling, "Father," sometimes mingled with the knocks. As Kinzo heaved a deep sigh, he snapped shut the old book in his hands and slammed it on the table. Then he yelled at Kraus, who was still knocking on the door. "Silence! Enough with that racket, you fool! Who told you the door would be opened if you but knocked? I'll crucify the imbecile. Do you wish to suffer the same fate?" "Father, this is the day of the family conference, which only happens once a year, is it not? Everyone's gathered down below. Please come out." Kraus called out to his father through the door. Kinzo always shut himself up in the study, hating it when nearly anyone, even his family, entered the room. For that reason, Kraus had no choice but to call him from the corridor like this. "Molest me not. Just who is this everyone of which you speak? Do you mean the fools trying to drag me out of here? Then kill them all. Tear them apart, use their bodies for firewood, and feed them into the witch's hearth. Put a pot in that hearth to boil the wormwood. Force the imbeciles who dare try to lure me out of here to drink the broth of the apocalypse. I will soak their dregs in liquor. Where is Genji? Call for Genji. Have my demonic absinthe prepared. The whispering of the green fairy reaches me no longer. Where is Genji? Bring him here." Rochelo. On the other side of the door, Kraus, Nanjo, and Genji kept waiting for the master of the house, who stubbornly refused to come out. I'm sorry, this guy looked really silly. Humph. Looks like he hates me to the core. My voice doesn't reach him anymore. Kraus shrugged as though saying, "It's no use," and smiled bitterly. From the beginning, he hadn't really expected his father to respond to his calls. However, since it was the duty of the eldest son, he had tried as a formality. Excuse me. "Kinzo, your sons, daughters, and grandchildren have come to see you, have they not? Could you just let them see your face, only for a short while?" "Shut up, be silent. You dare to admonish me, Nanjo. I never told anyone to get you, I told them to get Genji. Now call for him immediately. Time is short and the apostles are already readying in their trumpets, so why can't you foolish sheep understand?" Kinzo slammed an old heavy book against the table over and over. That racket clearly expressed his great displeasure. Kinzo put his spectacles down and flew up from his chair. He spread his arms wide open as if to sing to a packed opera house, as if appealing to someone, and yelled. "Why? Why is there always something in my way? I would throw it all away, I would offer up everything, and there is only one thing I ask in repayment. Oh, Beatrice, if I could see your smile but one more time, I would plunder the smiles of the earth and offer them all up to you. Oh, commanders of the legions of locusts, reap the smiles of the earth." Everything is filthy, everything is irksome. Why must I suffer this impediment on this most precious of days? Call for Genji. I have no idea what he's yelling about. He's probably lost his mind by now. isn't it a bit harsh to say such a thing of your own father? My father's already dead. There's nothing here but a phantom of what father once was. At any rate, as long as he has no intention of coming out, there's nothing we can do. Kinzo. Choking coughs continued to pour from the study. I'm going back downstairs. It would be a waste to let the fruits of Goda's prized cooking talent get any colder. It's one of the few things our relatives can look forward to when they come to this house. Kraus spun around. He looked at his watch, mumbling and acting as though he had wasted time doing something he knew would be in vain. Genji, father's calling for you. Keep him company. Certainly. Dr. Nanjo, let's go eat. If we stay here any longer, the sweet stench will ruin our sense of taste. Without waiting for Nanjo, Kraus went downstairs. Genji urged Nanjo to go and eat. Nanjo glanced between the study door and Kraus's back as the latter disappeared down the stairs, then let out a deep sigh. Sorry, Genji, but please allow me to leave this in your hands. Yes, please leave it to me. Do what you can to avoid giving him alcohol. That's a habit that's far too difficult to break. Is Genji not here yet? Who dares keep Genji from coming? Where's Genji? Call for Genji. Please, allow me to handle the situation here. Very well. Forgive me. Nanjo bowed slightly and descended the stairs. Genji watched him leave, then knocked on the study door. Master, it is Genji. Genji, why have you kept me waiting so long? You're alone, I trust. Correct. I am alone. Kinzo returned to his seat in the study and pressed an old-fashioned switch on the table. After a small delay, the heavy sound of the door unlocking could be heard. Kinzo was convinced that his family wanted to make a mess of his study. Or perhaps someone had once opened the window for some air and ended up scattering things that, to him, were important research materials, leaving him in a terrible mood. Kinzo had outfitted his room with a formidable lock, preventing anyone from entering without his permission, and thereby sealing himself in a jail of his own making. Genji, whom he trusted the most, was relatively free to enter the room, but even that didn't always hold. If Kinzo was in a bad mood, even Genji wouldn't be able to enter. Anyone else would be limited to holding a conversation through the door, unable to even see Kinzo's face. And most of the time, what they got could hardly be called a conversation. However, this didn't trouble the rest of the family much. After all, it just wasn't worth the effort to disturb this aging family head, who is impossible to please and always stayed shut away, immersed in his research. Taking advantage of his refusal to leave his room, they supported his isolation, putting his care entirely into the hands of the servants. Genji, my usual. I'm busy. Yes, sir. Genji headed to a corner of the study. There, suspicious-looking bottles boasting venomous colors were on display. They were actually liquor, but considering the shady atmosphere of this room, one might easily suspect them of being some ghastly poison. Why is he drinking Deltarune acid? What liquor do they got him drinking? Inside the study, the mysterious collection of books gathered by Kinzo had grown into a mountain. They were bizarre and ancient or banned books, all of them either forbidden, cursed, or sealed. But if you tried to call them old books, Kinzo would fly into a rage and say, "Call them grimoires." There were also many mysterious objects that presumably held some meaning with regards to black magic, like candles suspiciously melted and molded into strange shapes. The constellations drawn on a certain celestial globe contained quite a few shapes that would draw puzzled looks from anyone familiar with today's night sky. Hello, Spambot. The carelessly strewn about books contained many illustrations, all of them of a religious or mysterious nature, including some depicting demonically grotesque subjects or bizarre diagrams of various magic circles. And above all, a sweet poisonous smell filled the room, profoundly assaulting the eyes and noses of those who entered for the first time. Eventually, it must surely make a person go numb and lose their grip on reality. Inside that study... Hello, my kitty cat. Inside that study, Genji prepared Kinzo's usual drink with a well-trained hand. No one would even think of drinking such an ominous dark green liquid in that complex and ornate glass unless someone first told them it was alcohol. He poured a little into the glass. Then he placed a cube of sugar in a strangely shaped spoon and poured water from a pitcher over it. Strangely, when the transparent water was poured, the dark green liquid turned a cloudy white. It was a strange optical illusion, as though the water had caused a chemical reaction and made the drink become even more unrecognizable as liquor. Then, Genji added original flavors Kinzo loved, fine-tuning its taste. There was no recipe. Its success was measured only by Kinzo's mood swings when he drank it, and it had taken Genji many decades to learn how to do it right. Genji placed the glass on a tray and walked over to Kinzo. By this time, Kinzo was gazing out the window. Here, master. Thank you. Kinzo had regained his composure and was now unrecognizable as the shouting, screaming, yelling man from a few moments ago. Looking at this man from behind as he tilted his glass and gazed down at the scenery beyond the window, he projected a sense of dignity and intelligence. To allow Kinzo to set his glass down at any time, Genji motionlessly waited behind Kinzo and to his left, as though he were a living sideboard. Then, without averting his eyes from the window, Kinzo held out his glass. There was only a mouthful remaining. It was not a gesture intended to set it upon the tray, but a motion to hand the glass over to Genji. Drink, my friend. Your words are too kind for me. No need for ceremony between us. Drink, my friend. Thank you. Genji respectfully received the glass and inclined it a little to taste its contents. After that, he gulped it down. I attempted to imitate your concoction, but no matter how I try, I cannot replicate the taste. The way you make it is pure relish. Thank you very much. It is the fruit of your guidance, master. Kinzo smiled at his loyal subject, who refused to put aside rank even when asked to. However, he was not making fun of him. His smile was relaxed, as though chuckling at a close friend's old, unshakable habit. We've grown old together. I stopped counting the years long ago. It is entirely thanks to you, master, that I've been able to live like this until today. Kinzo gave a faint smile, as if to say he didn't need any flattery. Until now, you have served me exceedingly well. My sons call me eccentric. Servants that were once many have all quit in fear of me. Only you serve me, even now. Your words are more than I deserve. My life will not last much longer. My sons are vultures lazily waiting for my inheritance to fall into their hands. Kraus is a fool who squanders money like water, who throws away 2 gold coins to obtain 1, and then he has the gall to claim that he's earned money. Ava is a slave to money who thinks of me as a mere chicken. When I die, she plans to use my bones to make a broth. That dunce Rudolph just wants to fool around with women. Rosa bore the baby of a man who came from nowhere and about whom we know nothing. Jessica's incompetent and uneducated. George has none of what it takes to be a man. Battler is a fool who threw away the honor of the Ushiramiya family, and Maria is obscene to the eye. Why is the Ushiramiya blood so incompetent? Is there no one worthy to inherit the glory I built? Of course I know this is part of Beatrice's curse, I know it. You golden witch, are you trying to take revenge against me in this way? If you want to hate me, then do so. If you want to run away, then run. I won't let you go, I won't let you go, won't let you go, won't let you go. You belong to me. You must always be in my arms for all my life. You must stay in my birdcage for all eternity, whispering only to me. Beatrice, why won't you smile back at me? Beatrice. After howling, Kinzo choked once again. I do that louder, but it's late and I live in an apartment. Genji set the tray and glass down and rubbed his master's back. Genji's facial expression did not change. It was always like this. Thank you, my friend. When his seemingly deranged fit subsided, Kinzo regained his composure once again. It was like seeing 2 different people, a wild Kinzo and a composed Kinzo, living together inside one body. And so, I have decided. I cannot bear to spend my dimmed remaining years procrastinating like this. If I have one final coin to bet, then I choose to abandon it to the whims of the demon's roulette. The power of magic is always determined by the risk of the gamble, like visiting a shrine at the hour of the ox in ancient Japanese sorcery to nail a cursed doll to a tree. Magical power is produced specifically because of the risk that it will be seen within the 7 days the curse takes. The greater the risk, the stronger the magic power will be. Many miracles that happened in myth might be called the crystallization of shocking magic power, with a low probability of occurrence and astronomical risk. That Moses parted the water of the 7 seas was not a miracle of God. The risk of that desperate situation, cornered by the soldiers on the Red Sea's shores, weighed upon the scales of slaughter and gave birth to that miraculous magic power. If the same thing occurred again on the same scale, the sea would surely fail to part. After all, Moses was able to magnificently summon a miracle engraved on but one of the countless, innumerable results on the roulette of those with power. This is the force that can triumph over astronomical odds. Indeed, good fortune that can grasp miracles as magical power itself. To obtain this mighty power, one must face the risk of despair. Those who possess no magical power may call that desperation rather than a bet. However, people who truly do possess magic power can grasp hold of that miracle and make the enigma come into being. And if that power exists within me, I'll seize that miracle. I'll have a chance at making the wish I devoted my life towards come true. Kinzo looked up into the sky outside the window. He spread his arms as if appealing to someone up in the skies. If only I were capable of grasping that miracle. Beatrice, show me your lovely smile once more. No matter how much time passes, your face does not vanish. I just want to see your smile, that is all. I'll return everything you granted me. I'll return all the glory I've gained since that day. I don't need fortune, prestige, or gold. I'll return everything you gave me. I just want to see your smile. I beg you, Beatrice. His nonsensical yells became a scream, and then a wail. Kinzo slumped to the floor, tearing at it with both hands. Genji had no choice but to wordlessly watch over his master's lamentations. Well, ladies and gentlemen, the family head's health is not at its best. He seemed extremely sad not to be able to share lunch with you all, now that you have gathered for this event that occurs but once a year. Goda, let the lunch begin. Certainly. I shall begin today's luncheon. I feel as though this is a good place to stop. It's been about 50 minutes. And that is pretty good. Let's shave. That was a nice little bout of reading. Okay. Here we go. The thought has been put into my mind. Genji and Kinzo, I feel like they had something yaoi-ful going on. I'm too tired, that's all I gotta say. I find Battler having some of the strange... Well, I'm thinking about Higurashi. Keiichi was kind of a pervert, but I feel like it was not... Keiichi was a pervert and it made sense with the rest of his character. I'm kind of entranced by whatever Battler has going on, where he seems to be a feminist and then also was being a freak with Maria and Shannon, and then was like, wait a second, this is fucked up. I don't know. It's a visual novel, I think that's just how it is, but I just think the cognitive dissonance is really funny. Battler, you are a strange individual. No, I'm really curious to see what Kinzo's deal is. I think he's probably gonna die really soon. I've been watching Succession lately, and I'm drawing a lot of parallels to this. I don't think, well, it's possible, I suppose. I think it would be really funny if the people who made Succession were familiar with Umineko. I'd love to see what they think of it if they aren't. I'm only on like episode 4 or something, but the family coming together to meet up with their father/grandfather, and then the spoilers for episode 1 of Succession, that guy either having health issues or, in the case of Succession, having a stroke. And then this is my prediction for what will happen. Kinzo will maybe have a worse health issue or just straight up die, and then they all kind of have to figure out what to do with him. Or maybe Kinzo will get killed first, like he'll get murdered before he can die of natural causes, and then they all have to figure that out. But I feel like, I don't know, I feel like I'm expecting one of the, like, Butler characters to get killed first. I think it would almost even be interesting if Genji was killed. Because then that would make Kinzo even more inconsolable. Yeah. Many interesting things could happen. I'm very excited. And I'm the most tired anyone's ever been, so I'm gonna go to bed. Thank you for joining me for late night reading. And I will be back on Sunday or Monday. I would like to do an extended period of reading on Sunday, because I've yet to read for super long. I feel like my throat's up for it. I feel like I can do it. Because I have been thinking about Umineko quite a lot in my free time, and I would like to get around to it more. So yeah, have a good night, everyone, and I will see you sometime in the next few days. Bye-bye.